All right, carbs versus fat in your diet are largely personal preference. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. Now, when I make this statement, I want to be clear, I am not advocating a low fiber diet. I think everyone should be eating lots of vegetables. I think everyone should be eating lots of fiber. I don't think they should go overboard on meat source saturated fat, okay? So I want to make that statement. So I'm not over here promoting the more extreme ketogenic diet type diets. What I am promoting is looking at what you were trying to do, preference, all of those things when it comes to how you choose to fill in your calories. Okay, because at the end of the day, if our pursuit is body composition, obviously our protein intakes are going to be high. Okay, not necessarily for muscle growth, because we all know that at a certain threshold, more protein doesn't add more muscle. It just doesn't. Doesn't appear to be the case at all. It's just not supported by the data. But we know that in some cases, like if dietary carbs are low and fat is higher, there can be benefits to more protein. All right. Yeah, particularly in the pursuit of body composition for calorie burning, is the thermic effect in an extra society. But in general, protein overfeeding is useful for body composition for fat loss side. Okay, so obviously we're all eating high protein diets. So I want to be clear when I discuss this situation. I'm under the assumption you're already eating high protein. I'm under the assumption you're probably hitting that 1.5 grams per kilogram of body weight kind of ideal or more. That's the assumption. Okay, it's not a blanket non-context specific statement. I'm also assuming your diet is a good micronutrient sufficiency. You're eating plenty of vegetables and things, plenty of plants, plenty of fiber. Okay, because once those are filled, a lot of other stuff is a lot more what you were trying to do with everything from water weight, fullness, all these different things, how you're trying to control different types of inflammation in the body. Okay, maybe looking for a certain look, either trying to drop water or fill muscles out more. So different things, right? Maybe how your GI tract feels. This is where the differences between these things come into play. And those are very, very individual to your biology, to your current situation with health situations, your physiology, your specific goals at the moment. They're not set in stone. But I do need to put that caveat in up front. This is context dependent. This is not a blanket statement. Oh, carbs and fat are completely interchangeable. It's not what we're saying. Saying their personal preference. But we come back over to assuming all the fiber and vitamins and minerals are present. We're assuming plenty of protein. Okay. If those needs are met, the other stuff actually is less important. Okay, because those are, for our purposes, for general health, recovery, body composition, those are the big ones. Those are the big ones, and those are the ones that are not debated. Like when you get to the point where people start debating that, you're dealing with an absolute fraud and a quack. Well, we don't need fiber in our diet. We don't need fat. We don't need this. We don't need that. Oh, you can maximize muscle on very small amounts of plant source protein. Yeah, that doesn't work either. Okay, so drop the extreme diets. Now let's come over and let's talk about the others. It's a lot of personal preference. Because when we look at it, we know that, in theory, carbohydrates may cause more muscle growth. It's a nice hypothesis. I like the hypothesis. You deal with insulin response, insulin itself being anabolic to muscle tissue. It's a good thing. And when we train really hard, we have higher insulin sensitivity, so we have a smaller insulin response. So those carbs come in handy. In theory, training fuel. It all sounds good on paper. Practice, it doesn't really pan out. It turns out our training needs for carbohydrate are relatively low. They're there. But realistically, do you know how hard you have to train to burn 30 grams of carbs? It's a lot. Average person going to the gym probably doesn't burn through that many carbohydrates. Now, before people say, well, you burn a lot of calories, so the heart rate up in the heavy, but how much of that is between sets? Okay? A lot of that can be fat also. It doesn't have to be carbohydrate being burned. So that doesn't really work. It's really only the moving the weight and the muscular contractions of the anaerobic type activity that's burning through that. And a lot of that is ATP on the heavier work, which can also be replenished off of other stuff. It doesn't have to come purely from dietary carbohydrate. So they keep that in mind for these factors. That's been overrated. We also come over to, well, what sort of fats you consume. We talk about insulin response, but if we're eating a lot of protein and still eating trace amounts of carbs, even on fairly low carbs and higher fat, are you eating fats that are associated with improved insulin sensitivity? Are you eating a bunch of fat, saturated fat, tons of it, or are you eating a lot of omega-3, a lot of omega-6? Okay? You have a lot of those healthy fats. And in other words, are we eating walnuts and almonds and fatty fish, or are you eating bacon? Okay, there's a big difference here. Okay, insulin sensitivity. So we come over to, what are we trying to do? A lot of times we can get a larger insulin response from more carbohydrate. We get more glycogen. You can probably do more total volumes. It definitely matters when we start talking about extreme amounts of cardio, extreme training volumes. Yeah, carbohydrates come in handy real quick. You have to understand that. Could also discuss the inside. How about we discuss looking full and thick? If you want to look as big and stacked as possible, taking those carbs up help. Now they may come at the expense of some water around the waist, some water in the gut. Okay? But if you want to look thick, man, carbon up can go a real long way to doing that. Okay, we go to the other extreme. When carbs are lower and we're eating all those healthy fats, what do we get? Particularly healthy fats that lower inflammation. All that inflammation goes down. That water in the gut goes down. Smaller, tighter waistline. Tighter look overall. Okay? Can take down certain types of inflammation. Right? If it's healthy fats, a lot of inflammatory markers can go down. If it improves insulin sensitivity, we still get those other benefits because it's then offset by the amount we need. We get plenty of it from high protein, right? If your insulin sensitivity is crazy high because you eat a lot of healthy fats and a lot of fiber and only very modest amounts of carbohydrate, all that protein is going to have a pronounced insulinogenic effect. So these are really what you're looking at. What are you trying to do? Are we trying to push the bleeding edge of performance, the bleeding edge of muscle fullness, and looking as thick as possible at any given moment? I mean, erring on the side of carbohydrate makes sense. Are we trying to look tighter? We're trying to control inflammation the most? Trying to really, truly maximize insulin sensitivity? Eating healthy fats as a primary calorie source, drifting in that direction starts to make more sense. And then it comes down to individual food tolerances. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.